Hello and welcome to the Strategic Bookkeeper Podcast. In today's episode, I'm diving into retention. So in the last episode, I did 5 ways to increase your revenue, and we started talking about retention, and today I wanted to expand on that, and I'd like to keep it as simple as possible and actionable. So what I'm going to do is give you 5 key areas around retention to think about so you can kind of score yourself in a way. Like, how am I doing in this area? How am I really doing? First person we need to be honest with is ourselves. Is there any room for improvement? And what are you going to do next? So let's jump into the episode so we can help you look at retention, regardless of whether you've been in practice for a year, 10 years, 40 years, or whether it's a dream in your heart. I'll see you in there. I'm Jeannie Savage, the Strategic Bookkeeper. I've been in practice for 14 years, but more importantly, 5 years in, I achieved a lifestyle practice. This means I scaled my business, could take my hands off the wheel, and draw a nice 6-figure income while being time rich. And that's what I call my dream on my terms. I was recently awarded Women in Finance Innovator of the Year, recognizing my book, my podcast, my program, and my impact globally. The Strategic Bookkeeper is my life's work, and the opportunity to help bookkeepers globally achieve the income and lifestyle that sets them free absolutely fills my cup. Please do connect with me on socials at the Strategic Bookkeepers Way private Facebook group, or shoot me an email, hello@thestrategicbookkeeper.global. Okay, so let's dive into retention. And as I have called this podcast, keeping clients for life and 5 must-know strategies. So I'm really going to try and give you 5 of the big keys. And this is from all my experience. Okay, so as I record this podcast in February 2025, my practice has been going for 15 years. If you've read my first book, you'll know I call my first 5 years in practice my fluff up years. I always did pretty well with client retention from the get-go. And I might tell you what I did right. Actually, when I look at these 5 strategies that I'm going to share, I was doing really well in all of these from day one, except maybe brand. Probably wasn't doing amazingly in brand. So the 5 strategies are, I'll go through them now and then I'll kind of circle back. Number 1, promises kept. Number 2, communication. Professionalism up to number 3. Then number 4, advisory. Number 5, brand. I was definitely getting those first 3 right really early on. Advisory, I was kind of accidentally falling into. We'll touch on that. And then brand, well, I didn't know what a brand was right at the beginning, let alone have one. But probably very early on, I started getting into brand assets like website and so on. So we'll dive into that as well. But they're the 5 key areas for you to have a think about. And before we move on, I want to relate all of this to the Bookkeeping Practice Blueprint. So this is an asset that we share with you every week. So as always, you'll find it in the show notes. This is something that every one of my tribe members inside my program have printed out and either just on their desk, on the toilet door. They have it as sometimes an A3 poster. So you can actually use this as A4 or A3. You can print it out. You can get it framed. You can have it on your wall. It is my gift to you. Okay. It's a visual representation of really all the things. So let's just relate today's podcast to that. So retention and those 5 things that I just talked to you about. So let's go back, have a look. Promises kept and communication. On the blueprint, they are listed next to standard operating procedures on the very right-hand side, right down the bottom. Nobody else around the world, when it comes to you and your bookkeeping practice and standard operating procedures, will tell you that the 2 big keys are promises kept and comms, as I like to shorten communication. But absolutely, like when you think of standard operating procedures, okay, as we relate it to retention, you probably think of processes, right? So standard operating procedures being processes, how we do things and how we maintain a certain quality and so on. And I often ask my tribe, I ask bookkeepers, why do we have standard operating procedures? What is the main reason? And never ever does anyone guess promises kept. And I can tell you right now, after diving down that rabbit hole, the first thing that we have SOPs, standard operating procedures, SOPs for, is to keep our promise. As if you think about, why do we have a process? Okay, so our promise starts with so when you first talk to a prospective client, so somebody gives you a call, for example, you get on the phone and hopefully you are doing a needs analysis. That is the first thing. And you find that on the blueprint as well under your conversion process, that from the minute you open your mouth, you're making promises. For example, I'll send you your proposal today. If you don't send it today, you've just broken your first promise. And promises kept is trust. And it is just one of the absolute most important parts of your bookkeeping practice. And when it comes to retention, especially. So, for example, one of our standard operating procedures that I teach my tribe members is to always say, I'm going to send you your proposal by close of business tomorrow. And that way, we always want to send it early because we want to exceed our promises or exceed expectations. So we want to under promise and over deliver, just like Mercedes. I've told that story before, where if you order a brand new Mercedes Benz, they will tell you it's going to be, say, 12 weeks or something, and you will always get it early so that you are, so they're exceeding your expectations, so that they are under promising, over delivering, and that they know that your customer journey will be you saying, wow, I got my Mercedes earlier than I expected, never ever later. So when it comes to promises kept, you need to sweat the small stuff, like even that tiny little thing. And promises kept, communication and professionalism all really go hand in hand. So we'll dive into that in a second as well. And realistically, beyond the prospect, so the prospect coming through, you doing that needs analysis, and then going through to hopefully sell a file health check, and then the first conversion into that project work, which tends to be catch up, rectification, or setup work, and then into the month-to-month services. Every step of the way, whatever you say you are going to do, which is generally time and task. So think about, I'm going to do this task for you, like a file health check, in this time frame, then you need to keep those promises. Once again, this is trust. So with that first one, I want you to begin now to ask yourself, how are you going with that? So now it's one of the questions you might ask yourself is, have I heard it put this way? So I'd love for you to think about how this is landing. Like, wow, I never thought of it that way. So now I'm going to dive into some common mistakes bookkeepers make around promises kept. So you can just have a think about whether you fall into any of these categories, because oftentimes we might be breaking promises, thinking it's not a big deal. Our clients are telling us, no big deal. I don't mind. I totally understand that you're busy, but they don't tell us what they really think. Okay, so we're relating all of this back to retention. And you're always going to aim to keep your beautiful, wonderful VIP clients that you've worked very hard to find and acquire. You're going to aim to keep them forever. So for me, the forever client means for as long as they own that business. And we've had clients where they sell the business and the new owner stays with us, which is amazing. But for as long as they own the business or the life of that business. So anything shorter than that. And we really need to think about, could we have done something to keep that client, et cetera. Okay. So we're aiming for the forever client, because it's also important to really understand what is good retention, because some bookkeepers might think, well, if I keep my client for a year or 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, that's good retention. But if they leave you, why are they leaving you? Okay, so you really need to think about that. And why they're leaving you is usually one of, or definitely relates to one of the things that I'm sharing here. Okay, so promises kept, communication, professionalism, advisory, and brand. Because with promises kept, you might break a promise and that stays with that client. They might leave you in 5 years because of that promise broken. And look, it happens to us too. We're not perfect. We get things wrong as well. Hey, I just wanted to take 1 minute to tell you about our signature transformation program, in my own words, from the heart. So this is a program where I'm really passionate about helping you to build a thriving practice, delight your clients, and live your dream on your terms by leveling up to become a strategic bookkeeper. My tribe inside the program tells me that there is nothing like my signature program on the planet. 100% of them describe it as mind-blowing, and I'm so pleased to tell you that many tribe members get 5- and 6-figure results within the first 12 months. And it does come with a full money-back guarantee, which is so easy because tribe members say that they tend to make the whole year's fee back within the first month. But it does also come with a weekly payment plan because I wanted to make it accessible to everyone. Now, while there is tons of information on our website and previous podcasts, I also want to let you know that our customer success manager, Demi, would love to chat to you and answer any questions that you've got, so you can book a call with Demi no matter where in the world you are. So feel free to visit our website or drop us an email, hello@thestrategicbookkeeper.global. Back to the podcast. So now I'm going to give you an example of bookkeepers that I know, so real life examples of where they've got it wrong around promises kept. And I'm going to tell you a story that takes in professionalism as well, because professionalism, it's a word that could have a really broad meaning. Like, does it mean I'm dressed well? Does it mean I talk well? What does it mean? And so I'll give you a story to begin with. Okay. So I was once working with a bookkeeper, really lovely, really, really skilled, really nice person, still really, really like her. And we were working together. Basically, like a lot of bookkeepers, like maybe 80% of bookkeepers, what she didn't really understand was the importance of keeping a promise, even when your client says, no, that's fine, I get that you're busy, and what it means to be professional, and that being professional is kind of a one-way street. And in your bookkeeping practice, a lot of things are a one-way street, meaning the way that you need to show up and act is different to your client. So, for example, my clients can tell me all about their family, their kids, all the personal stuff, but it's a one-way street. I don't get to respond in the same way because I'm the professional bookkeeper being paid the fee, and my client is the client paying me the fee, okay? Because in forums, I've sometimes heard, oh, this client fired me and he said that I was always rattling on about my personal life, but he was always rattling on about his, and all I was doing was responding to be polite. Now, let that story stay with you, okay? That's not the story of the bookkeeper I know, but that's just one story because that's the one-way street thing, okay? So let's say my client tells me all about their personal life, their divorce, their kids, everything. Then I might, in a professional way, make sure that they have enough information about me and my family to make it professional, to make it comfortable, right? But I will never take up the minutes they're paying me for with stuff about my life. So my clients all pay outcome fees, meaning they're paying me for an outcome, not an hour. So it makes that much easier. If I talk about my son for 1 minute, they don't feel like, oh, I just paid for that 1 minute, because they pay me for an outcome. So that makes it easier. But that's that one-way street thing. So I once had this lovely lady working for me, and she was working with one of our clients, and she worked from home. So for a long time, all of our staff have worked remotely. It works for them. It works for us as well. Now, interesting part of this story is that this lovely bookkeeper, let's call her Sally, one of her clients, she actually knew her. They went to the same church together and they had a family connection as well. All right. So let's just say there was some form of friendship there as well. So she made the mistake also kind of thinking that the rules of the game changed. And what she did is, number one, if she felt like she was busy and she wanted to do a lodgement late or maybe not send the reports on time, she would just tell this client, let's call this client Karen. She would say, hey, Karen, I'm really busy right now. And so I'm just going to lodge your tax obligations or whatever they are at a later. You understand, don't you? And Karen would say, yeah, sure, Sally, no problem. I totally get it. Then also, oftentimes when they were working together, maybe they were Zooming or they were on the phone together, then the client, Karen, would talk about her grandchildren and they were running around in the background. So the bookkeeper, Sally, had her grandchildren running around and she did the same thing. She said, oh, sorry about the noise. The grandkids are running around, and she talked all about her grandchildren. Then the next thing she did is she changed the day and time that they were going to meet and talk about things frequently. And she did it also because the client, Karen, had changed the day and time. And she said, now I've got things on, so you don't mind if I need to change the day and time. And the client, Karen, said, no, not at all, no problem whatsoever. Here's the thing. Karen did mind. She minded everything. And when the bookkeeper, Sally, decided to move on, so she decided that she wanted to go off and do something else and not work for our practice anymore, the client, Karen, and I spoke, and Karen told me that she wasn't really happy with the things that had happened. So basically, Karen went into detail. She told me these things. That's how I know. So she said that she changed the days and times and that her grandchildren were often running around, and she would talk to her about that, and she didn't send the reports on time, and she changed dates for lodgements and things like that. And she wanted just a professional bookkeeper where there was a professional working relationship. So if you want to just take a moment and just ask yourself, what is your perception of these things, okay? Because another example is a friend of mine who is also a client, okay? So we have the friend hat that we wear, and then we have the client hat that we wear. This friend of mine, she used to live next door to me, and I had one of my beautiful bookkeepers coming into me, and she was servicing this account for me, okay? And finally, that bookkeeper moved on during COVID as well. And my friend, who is one of my closest friends, she actually was honest with me, and she said, look, oftentimes this particular bookkeeper, let's call her Terry. Terry was overly friendly and this kind of thing. I won't go into too much detail, but similar to the first story. And my friend, let's call her what we call her Sarah. Sarah said, look, the truth is, I need a bookkeeper, not a friend. Okay. So just another story about professionalism. So promises kept and professionalism, I could go on and on about them, but these are just two things. Professionalism, you need to define it for yourself. For me, I guess when I'm with my clients, they're always the client. So even when it's a friend, so with this particular friend, Sarah, she's so sweet and lovely and supportive that I actually remind her, if we're in client mode, then I actually remind her that I've got my bookkeeper hat on or my business coach hat on or whatever it might be. And I actually remind her to please be honest with me as well, okay? So that it's a safe place to be very honest in that client bookkeeper relationship, and she has done that. So she said, thank you so much for reminding me. And then she's just honest about anything to do with the service, with the staff, and so on. Okay, she wants to feel like she's getting really great value when she pays us for a specific outcome, and when we're in that mode, she wants to have the client hat on. So what have you learned about professionalism and promises kept? Okay, and if you do need to move the goalposts on a promise, and I'll give you an example. So I remember one year, it was the end of financial year, can get quite busy, and we wanted to send all of the end of month reports out a little bit later. So my right hand, my amazing professional right hand, she is McMahon, she sent a communication out to all of our clients, just letting them know it's end of financial year and we're doing a lot of end of financial year things. And so we want to let you know that we'd like to send your financial reports out just a little bit later than usual. And so we really talk to them in a professional way to seek that, I guess, permission and to let them know, so communication, that we are going to move the goalposts, okay? So please know that there are times that you can do that. Just telling your clients, and I see this a lot, I'm really busy, so you understand that I'll be lodging everything late. So in my bookkeeping practice, our process is to always be up to date and do a whole lot of other things. And if we don't meet what we say, we give our clients a refund. Okay. So we take our service level agreement very, very seriously. The books are kept up to date on a weekly basis. We meet time and task. Okay. And everything is taken care of except when it's out of our control, right? So if the client doesn't give us what we need, then we have another process where we issue them a little thing that kind of says, look, because we haven't got what we need, we're issuing your financial reports, but they are going to reflect where the books are at, and we're waiting for some information and so on, okay? So I won't rattle on about those anymore, but to ask you, what have you learned about promises kept and professionalism, and could you level up in these areas? Now, communication as a secret marketing weapon. Now, I've done other podcasts on this, although it might be time for another one. So we'll keep this very headliner, and then maybe I'll seek to give you some more information on this in separate podcasts. But I could write a book on this for sure. So communication, where I see bookkeepers go wrong, and what we've already always done very well at from the beginning, I feel like we can always do better. But there is something that I learned from an etiquette coach, and that is, she said to me, Jeannie, treat others as they want to be treated, not as you want to be treated, okay? Now, as bookkeepers, we tend to be detail-orientated intellectuals, okay? So that's how we would categorize ourselves. If you've never heard that before, that's okay. Take it in for a moment, okay? Now, the clients that we serve are oftentimes the opposite of that. They're big picture and they're not intellectuals. So while bookkeepers often, they're great with admin skills, they love touch typing, bookkeepers love email. They love to email, email, email. Well, guess what? Your clients, if you surveyed them, probably most of them would hate email. They'd prefer to get a phone call. They'd love to get a voice clip so they didn't have to read the email. A percentage of them will be dyslexic, okay, and really struggle with the written word. So in my bookkeeping practice, the first 3 months of getting to know the client, we are keenly interested in how they'd like us to communicate with them. So would they like one monthly email? Would they like a weekly email? Would they like phone calls exclusively? Would they like us to connect with them on Facebook Messenger and send voice clips there, voice clips to their phone, voice clips to their email? So we're just getting to know them. Like, is this a plumber with 5 staff? What's he all about? So we spend that first few months getting to know our client so we can make sure we communicate with them in a way that saves them time and money, okay, makes them really happy and makes life easy for them. And that's connected to our brand. So before I get to advisory, I might make brand number 4 on the list. So your brand is your organization's personality, and at the heart and soul of that is your vision for your clients. Like, why are your clients working with you? Because the bookkeeping is just a vehicle. What's the destination that they want to get to? So that's your vision, and your mission is how you're going to get them there. So we have a very clear vision and we have a very clear mission, and that drive the fact that we want to get to know our client and how they operate and what's important to them. So how could you level up around communication? Are you like most of the bookkeepers that I meet that come into my program that are a little bit mind blown by my clients might not want email all the time? So is this news to you? Is this new to you? Okay. And how could you think about all the amazing tech tools out there in order to get to know your clients one by one and communicate with them in a way that it is a secret marketing weapon that aids retention and having the forever client. Because if there was one thing that I could point out on this 5-point list, it would be communication. That's why on the blueprint, you've got promises kept and comms, because communication is quite transformational when you're working with your clients. We contact every one of our clients once a month by telephone. Me personally, the end of month queries, I always giggle when I hear bookkeepers send these long emails with the queries, because I like to give my clients a call and gives me a chance to have that beautiful dialogue with them rather than a monologue. And I love to just ask them about the things over the phone. Okay. It's quick for them. It's quick for me. And if you can save your clients time and money, you will retain them forever. Okay. Saving time and money, making time and money will never get tired. Okay. It will never, ever get tired. It's what your clients will always want. If you cost them time and money, that is a quick road to really poor client retention and also to damaged reputation. Okay. So years ago, just a story on that one. I had a bookkeeper working for me, and I used to say she was a bit of a wild horse. She wanted to do things her way and not my way. And that's fine if you want to go and do things, run your own practice, which is what she did. But when you're working for someone, you need to do things their way, right? So one of our clients who's been with us, goodness gracious, well over a decade, he fired me. And that's okay. I managed to retain him, but we did have to let that staff member go, because even though he'd been really clear with her, and for the longest time he wanted one email a month and to never hear from us outside of that, she decided to start bombarding him with emails. Okay, so I let him know that we would rectify it immediately, that it would never happen again. And he's been a happy client ongoing. Okay. So for well over a decade, he's been with us, and communication is key. Okay. So let's move on to brand and advisory. Now, brand's a big subject. So I'm going to point you towards the chapter in my first book on brand for more on that. But how does brand help us retain clients? Well, it really is what I talked about a minute ago. When you get clear on why you exist in the eyes of your client, what destination you are trying to take them to. And a really simple example of that would be better in business. Okay, so let's say, for example, your vision is to help your clients do better in business. Then how are you going to do that? It might be through bookkeeping plus education. It might be through various things. Okay, when you get clear on that vision, it is a North Star that will guide you and your team, and it will absolutely help with retention. Big subject, so you must dive into that chapter of my book. In the transformation program, I give you a done for you brand, okay, because you come in and you leverage the power of the Strategic Bookkeeper Network, okay, which is massive, too much to tell you here, but you know how to find out about that, okay. So you come in and you get a leveraged brand that you can integrate into your brand assets, okay, because remember, your logo, your website, your colors, that's not your brand. That is your brand style and your brand assets. Your brand is ethereal. It's your organization's personality. Okay, so we've worked very hard to understand the small business market and to wrap up a group vision and a group mission that you learn to use and apply. Okay. But you can go and do it yourself if you're not in the program, and the book's there for you. So the last one on the list is advisory. So in terms of the advisory bucket, so anything beyond the basic bookkeeping, okay, so numbers 101, up-to-date accurate accounting records, also known as double entry accounting, anything beyond bringing those records up to date, you can just bundle into the advisory bucket. So level 1 advisory would be to investigate the numbers, and then level 2 and so on would be going beyond that. For example, business coaching, recruitment, just whatever's in your special skills kit, okay? So, why does advisory help with retention? Well, lots and lots of reasons, but primarily because the basic bookkeeping is very low value. Okay, nobody really wants to pay for it. And it's why we have a really cool headline for our tribe, which is fire your bookkeeper and hire a strategic bookkeeper so you can enjoy an investment rather than a cost. Okay. So bookkeeping, numbers 101, is a grudge purchase that nobody really wants. So when you go beyond the bookkeeping to investigate the numbers and more, you tend to be giving your clients more of what they want, solving more problems, and they tend to be able to make and save time and money using what's in your advisory suite. So our happiest clients are always the clients who are buying advisory from us. And in my first book, The Strategic Bookkeeper, we have got a whole chapter on advisory. It's called Succession, which means what's next on the menu. And I give you tons of tools and resources to get cracking with investigating the numbers with your clients. Okay, so on the Bookkeeping Practice Blueprint, you'll see it in products and pricing and in the conversion process. You must be selling advisory from the get-go to your prospects and having a way to upgrade your legacy clients from basic bookkeeping to strategic bookkeeping and beyond. So there you have it, your 5-point plan around retention. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions on today's episode, please shoot me an email and I'll see you in the next episode. Okay, my friend, now it is time to take action. So, what are you going to do with what you learned today? The way I see it, you've got two options. You can go it alone to try and save some money, or you can back yourself and go for it and join my tribe. And let me tell you, we are knocking it out of the ballpark. That's not a sales pitch. That is me serving you, dare I say, courageously. To find success, I 100% know you need the mechanics, which is like the keys to the kingdom, but you also need to get your mindset right and be super productive. And these are all things I help you with inside the program. I could go on about this forever because I really want this for you. Have a prosperous week and I'll see you in the next episode.